Hey, what's up everybody? This is Paul from Swarfworks. I'm going to do a little install video here on the new third brake light. Try to go over everything to make this as easy as it can possibly be for you. So here's the new V2 brake light. This one's set up for a Gen 3 Raptor. So it has a circuit board already installed on here, which we'll take off and I'll show you in a second. The Gen 2 and Super Duties will come with different pigtails. Obviously Gen 2, no camera. And so here's a box of hardware, accessories. So you can see the NMO mount antenna has just a pigtail on it now. Makes it a lot easier to install and take off if you need to. This just has a PL259 connector on it. And then this is just a male to female extension cable run down to your radio. So that's included if you get the NMO mount. And then just go over the hardware kit here real quick. I don't know why I got two sets of those seals in there, but 3 of the gasket seals for the S2 lights. Here is the mounting hardware for it to go onto the cab. There's a few little screws. This is a Gen 3, like I said, so these little 632 screws are for the camera. And then there's 6 1/4-20 by 1/2 inch a wide flange head to hold the S2s in. And then here is the 1032 screws for screwing it to the cab. So there's the hardware, and then also in the bottom of the box here is the gasket to go on the light when we're ready to put it in. So set that aside. So let me go show you how to take the factory light off the truck, and then we'll bring it over here. We'll swap the camera over, and then prep all this with the lights in it, and get that ready to go back on the truck. All right, it's pretty easy to pop the light off here. I like to grab a piece of foam or something soft to set up on here, and I use a little Torx bit here. Pop these screws out. All right, so Gen 2 is gonna be pretty similar to this, except for the camera. Super Duties as well. You'll just have, the wires will be a little different here. So just pinch that, comes off, pretty self-explanatory. And there's the harness. And then let me go back, pop the camera out of here and install it in the light. All right, now that we got the light off, we can pop the camera out of here. Once again, it's just a little Torx bit. Should come out of there pretty easy. I'll almost do it without the screwdriver. So set those screws aside. You won't reuse those, as those are plastic screws. So here we pop the camera out. We'll set this aside. Won't need that again. So there's a little plastic cover, a little hold down. So now we'll want to pop the circuit board out of here. Obviously this Super Duty is going to be different because it doesn't have the running lights, and that's what part of this circuit board does. So now we can take that camera without the bracket there. Just take the camera itself, push it in there until it stops, and then take that gray cover, set it over there, and now in your bag of hardware, here's a bag with a couple little 632 screws, and we'll just screw that down real quick. All right, so now the camera is installed. Looks good, nice and straight, tight. So now we need to put the S2 lights in here. So what we need to do is actually take off the bezel. We won't be reusing this. If I can grab the right bit here, and this bit. So we'll take the bezel off and set that aside, won't reuse it. So pop the bezel and the screws, set that aside. This one's going to be my center light since it's clear. My ambers will go on the outside. So we want to put this light in. Before we do that, my lens is going to fall out of there. All right, we'll take these little gaskets, set them down in here. Just help seal things up. So let's start with all the outside ones. Oops. So on mine, I'm doing a wide. This is a work scene, really diffused one on one side. And then I'm going to do a spot amber on the other side. Just, I don't know why, just for fun. These are sports. Center's a pro, just because that's what I had laying around. So what I do, I kind of like to keep that lens in there, and the reflectors. Just hold it through the back side. And then next we need the little 1/4-20 screws. And I did bring my Phillips bit here. So once you get that in there, make sure that lens is, it's not quite flush, but pretty close. So we set that screw in there and just tighten it down. I like to just kind of get it just so it's touching the light, and then put the other screw in. And then you'll watch and see, you can feel it snug down nice and tight there. Make sure it doesn't move at all. And there's one of the lights. Just as a side note, I'm losing my gaskets. As a side note, I got a couple holes in the top of this. This is just a prototype version for the Starlink mount, like I have on this one for the Starlink Mini. So if you see those holes, don't worry. It's just what I had laying around. I didn't want to beat up somebody's actual light that they were going to buy. So I'll just go through and put the rest of these in. Maybe I'll move the camera over here so you can see it a little closer. Side in, put the gasket back in there. Try to move it so you can see a little better here. That screw. Oh, come on. Good grief. Having issues. It's like 1 in the morning here. I'm tired. It's been a long day. Needed to get this video done here. So. All right, gasket's in there. So when these lights come apart, they're made to come apart here. Let me just show you. There's a couple little detent little pins there. So just make sure that's clocked the correct way. And then put the lens on there, make sure it sits down pretty close to flush. And also make sure the screws for the original bracket are at the bottom or closest to the running lights. So this middle one's a little bit trickier to get in there. Kind of gotta maybe put it in a little bit from the side here with the NMO wires there. It's a pretty tight package there. Get that wire out of the way. And drop it in there. So make sure the gasket's not getting pinched. Looks good. Once again, make sure you take the bezel off. Set that aside. So I'll leave the circuit board on this one off right now, and I'll show you why when we get back up to the truck. So there you go. You can see lights installed, cameras installed. Obviously they'll come with the NMO mount if you buy it with that installed. And now we can go put it on the truck. All right, before we throw it on the truck, let me just go over the wiring harnesses. There's 2 different wiring harnesses. There's the integration harness that comes with the brake light that we specify whether it's Gen 2 or Gen 3 or Raptor or not, Super Duty, whatever. That's the integration harness. That's what plugs into the factory wiring. Now this harness is separate. This is for the S2s to power the 3 different S2s. So we have from basic to advanced. So we have basic plus reverse, basic plus reverse with auxiliary control, and then this is the stop, tail, turn harness. So the basic, what this basic gives you is there's 3 connectors to plug into the S2s, and then On the other end of the harness, you have ground, which you can ground this up by your passenger foot kick panel. And then you have two, this will be your outer lights typically, blue and yellow, whichever way you want to do it. So the center light is this white one. This is the pigtail right here. It has about a foot of wire. This will connect to the dome light circuit on the integration harness. So with this one, will only come on when you open the door or whatever, the dome light circuit. So now what the basic plus reverse, the next one up gives you that extra wire, that white wire to the center light. This is for the kick panel here. You got ground, you got your two outer lights. Now you have the white wire that goes up to the center light. And up here, you have the three connections again. So the white one, typically for the center. Now this has a double diode on here. So you can feed this from the cargo circuit, or you can feed it power from, say, like an upfitter switch. So this is pretty slick. I'd say probably the most common, because it gives you individual control over the three lights and still come on with the dome light circuit. Now this is basically the same as that. This is the reverse, basic plus reverse with auxiliary control. So now basically it's the same on the brake light end, where you have the three plugs. You can hook it up to a dome light, the dome light function. Let me pull it out of here so you can see. On the top end, so there's two inputs into the one output to this light, and then that'll be the dome light circuit. The other end of it comes down here. This is where the passenger kick panel is, and so now you got your two outer lights, now your middle lights. So now you can do it from two different inputs. Typically one of them is from the reverse at the BCM, tap into the reverse signal, and then also from an upfitter switch. So that gives you lots of options. You can turn it on with an upfitter switch, it'll come on with your reverse, and then if you plug it in up here, it'll actually come on with the dome light circuit too. So those lately have been really popular. It gives you just a little bit more freedom. Then the stop tail turn, this one's a little bit more special and a little bit more rare. So this one, you tap into the BCM, the body control module, in more spots to give you like brake and turn signals and flashers and stuff like that. So this one, I would say you would probably normally run with like red lights on the outer. I haven't personally set this one up before, but it's an option. So that's the dual. So basic to advanced. I just kind of want to cover that. I don't want to spend too much time on it. There's instructions on Keith at LVJ's website on what each one of these do, and I'll try to also make some diagrams and stuff too to simplify this a little bit. But I would say normally, you know, kind of somewhere in the middle is pretty popular, or a lot of the basics too. So I have in here, I have the basic harness, I believe, in my truck right now. I don't generally run the center light on the cargo circuit, just because these S2s are so bright that it kind of blinds everybody when you open the door. But it is slick to be able to do that. So let me show you how to put the light in now. All right, so now we're ready to get going up here. First thing I like to do on these Gen 3 Raptors is this wiring harness here that has the pigtail for the light and the camera. There's a little tape on here. I'm not sure if this is exactly where it was when I first did this, but I like to take that off and then just pull out one of the two harnesses here back, and then leave the camera one coming out the middle hole. And I like to route this pigtail out the passenger side. So that'll help get that in there. It's a lot easier than doing it this way. So the next thing we need to do is take these plastic little thread inserts out. Okay, so now we can take the mounting plates, and I like to take one of the screws here. We don't need the washer on it yet, but just one of the screws. And then what we'll do is we'll stick these to the back of the inside of the cab. So just find the one that matches the right spot, pull off the backer. And then what I like to do is just, I like to kind of put the, you probably see this better on the next one I do, but kind of put this in here and then get the screw started, whatever wonky angle that you get it at there. So right now, probably can't see that, but it's just loose, and then I like to just kind of feed that in there, line the screw up to the middle of the square hole, put a little pressure on it from the back, pull on the screw a little bit, and then take the screw out for the next. So the middle ones here, same thing. Maybe get that wire out of the way, maybe you can see a little bit better. I'll do this one. So to kind of put it back in here, put the screw in before you get it close to it. I like to just start that in the hole, and then as you pull it close to it, just line it up in the center of that. Boom. Piece of cake. Maybe you can see this one a little better. Probably not, but I can just stick that through there. Get it started. And then pull it into place. And also with these, I mean, that VHB holds pretty dang tight. But, you know, you sell the truck or whatever, you can just do the same process here, and then just, you know, push the screw out, pop those off, and then you know, put the plastic inserts back in there. So I like it that it's not permanent. So now we need to run the wires for both the VHF and the S2s. So the best way to do it, open your back window, and then I like to reach in there, and you can kind of push the headliner back. I won't show this up close, but I've already got one in here. But you can feed this through the hole here, and maybe put a chase fish tape or something through there first. And then if you get it out behind the headliner, you don't need to take the headliner down or anything, but you get it down and you can kind of push it back in there and pull it. And then as soon as you get the wire through here, then you can just tuck it up under the headliner down the back of the pillar, and you're good to go. So you don't need to drop the headliner, you don't need to pull the plastic pillar panels off or anything. It's really not too bad. You kind of have to get your fingers in there pretty tight, but so now on the Gen 3 here, which is the trickiest one of them all, but let me get my wires out real quick from hiding here. All right, so now once you get the wires pulled, this is what it probably will look like. Ain't pretty, but let me just go over it real quick. You've got your light for the passenger side S2, which is yellow or blue. These, it doesn't much matter as long as you remember if you want to run them separately. Generally, I just wire those two together so they both come on. And then the white one in the center. So S2 wires, we just pull those up out of the way. You got your antenna wire for the VHF if you're running that. And then your camera for the Gen 3s or Super Duties. And then your pigtail for the running lights and brake lights. So now I need to get that. Let me do this. So I'm going to take the seal, and if you're doing it on a Gen 2 or Super Duty, you could put this on before this point with the circuit board on here. And this circuit board for the Gen 3, you could stash this somewhere else, just wrap it in some tape. And so now what I'll do is I'll start to put this seal on here. I'll just rip some of the paper off here. Get it mounted in the right spot. Place it down. Not sure that's even on camera, but just putting the seal on, no big deal. Make sure the running light, or the 3 LED wires are for the brake lights, running lights, whatever, are not getting pinched. And now we will, let me do this, run the wire for the lights here, plug it into the circuit board that's not mounted down yet. Plug it in there. Oops, I got it backwards. And plug that into the circuit board. And now we can screw that circuit board down to the light. Once again, this is just Gen 3 for the circuit board. The Gen 2s and Super Duties are a little different. So once that circuit board's mounted, now that we can put the rest of the seal down. And with this new light that's profile machined to match the cab, the seal really doesn't need to be this thick, but it does a good job. So that's kind of how it should look. So we got the integration harness plugged in. Now we can plug the camera in and then plug the S2s in. I kind of like to tuck those kind of up and under there. Let me plug this one in. Put that one in there. The center one plugged in. And last but not least, we will plug in, connect together the VHF antenna. So, and then I like to push these connectors kind of over to the side for the S2s. Those are probably the bigger hassle. It's just dang Delphi connectors. Not my favorite. And then put these in there. Make sure those wires don't get pinched. And there we go. So now I should have got my washer ready, but I didn't. Take one of these screws, and of course I didn't bring my Allen wrench for this. So I like to just leave it kind of loose. So then when you put this next one in, you can make sure it gets lined up. All right, so now I'm just snugging it up. You can see how much it pulls in there. Yeah, don't have to go crazy with it, but just kind of get it nice and tight. It does take a little bit of pressure to push those seals down, and the VHB is bonding to the back of that. So now got it all mounted up there. Let me grab antenna. There we go. Let me go hit the lights, make sure that the running lights and brake lights all work, and we're good to go. Well, I'll show a little clip here of the one with the Starlink mount installed, and show you taking the Starlink on and off. Super slick. So with the Starlink one, the only difference is you have one more wire that has another Delphi connector on it, just like an S2, and that can run 12 volts to 48 volts. I found putting a little power booster on there, bumping up to 24 volts, helps when you start the truck and stuff. It doesn't shut off the Starlink. So anyway, but super rigid, easy to take back apart, and thanks for watching.